Local journalism isn't dying, it's being redesigned in real time. At the very moment communities need trusted local reporting more than ever, newsrooms are being asked to do the impossible, serve deeper needs with fewer resources, fight platform erosion, and somehow build sustainable business models without losing their soul. Today, we're digging deep into a new report from FT Strategies, produced in partnership with the Knight Foundation, that doesn't trade in nostalgia or panic, but in evidence, patterns, and practical paths forward. The Local News Playbook, Creating Value for a Sustainable Future, draws on real-world newsroom experience, global case studies, and hard data to map what sustainability actually looks like on the ground right now. Hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of EMP Magazine. This, of course, is EMP Reports, our weekly vodcast series that explores the people, organizations, and issues shaping the evolving news publishing industry. Today, my guest is George Adelman, Director and Head of Partnerships at FT Strategies. George, you are not a stranger to me because, full disclosure to our audience, FT Strategies is one of our marketing partners. You support EMP's mission, so thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate having the Financial Times and FT Strategies as a partner, but more importantly, you've been using us to amplify the message of these reports that are really, some of them are very groundbreaking.
Thank you so much, Mike. It's wonderful to be here today and to speak to you. And yes, we're a very proud partner of EMP. We very much support your mission and feel it's very aligned to ours, which is, as a mission-centric organization, supporting the media industry and by extension, the information ecosystem. We believe about sharing best practice, ideas, and resources as widely as possible within the sector.
Well, you and your team work with more than 1,000 news organizations worldwide, helping them rethink revenue, operations, strategy, and more recently, how AI fits into it. This is not another Save Local News manifesto. What struck me about this report, it flips the question. Instead of asking, how do we rescue journalism and a bunch of talking heads, it asks, what do most resilient news organizations already have in common, and how can we replicate that across the ecosystem? I mean, that to me, in my opinion, you're going from 50,000 feet right down to the damn tarmac. Do you agree?
Most definitely. And look, we're not trying in this report to gloss over some of the systemic challenges that the local news ecosystem faces in not just the US, but around the world. But what we're trying to do instead, and maybe this is a very ambitious task, but really think about ways that we can help the ecosystem, both as actors within it, but also with practical guidance for local news organizations that they can apply in their respective organizations, even amidst difficult socioeconomic circumstances and constrained resources.
So when we come back, we'll unpack the 5 value drivers in this report and why the most precious resource local news has isn't money, technology, or even talent. This is going to be really interesting. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes 2 parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity in News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
All right, George, you open this report with a pretty stark reality. Fewer reporters, growing news deserts, and rising civic risk. What felt most urgent to get right in this research?
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, it's a great question. I think we've heard this story before, and this report certainly didn't want to gloss over some of the challenges facing local news organizations in the US and beyond. But what we really wanted to do is cut through some of that noise and give really practical steps and advice for local news organizations to implement within their own constraints and the challenges they face in the market. But also, we wanted to take a step back and look at the broader ecosystem, hold ourselves as media consultants to account, but also other actors in the ecosystem, whether they be funders, government, tech platforms, vendors, other journalism support organizations, education institutions, all of which are contributing to the performance and sustainability of local news organizations, and look for crucial interventions of how we can help the news organizations themselves and the communities that they serve for many years to come.
You argue that relevance, not scale, is what separates sustainable local news from the struggling outlets. Why is that such an important reframe for publishers who spent literally decades just chasing reach and audience? What does this really mean?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned in terms of the digital transformation in legacy print products, for instance, I think there a lot of organizations underestimated the service value of those products over and above the journalistic quality within them. And I think with the transition to digital, a lot of that value was unpacked and lost to other services on the internet. But I think there's an opportunity through relevance and utility to regain the trust and attention, most importantly, of local communities, build that audience, and by extension, create the revenue and underpinned by capacity and strong editorial prowess.
You got a list of core drivers. Let's start with community connection. What are the strongest examples you saw of newsrooms earning trust by being embedded in their communities rather than just reporting on them?
Most definitely. And, it sounds easy and obvious in some ways, but we found that those local news organizations that were experiencing significant growth were twice as likely to be prioritizing community and societal impact than those who had experienced decline. And we see that newsrooms that are reflecting their communities, whether it be their local demographics or language communities, and participate in broader social and civic life, are consistently creating more accurate and valued journalism and reporting. I mentioned relevance being key over scale. We also saw that from the local news organizations that we assessed, that they most commonly cited core coverage areas like civic affairs and local genuine news as being crucial to their engagement metrics. And 53% frequently used audience data to guide editorial decisions. So they were really starting to service in a cyclical way their community needs and drive value from that relationship.
And, a lot of newsrooms bristle at that. There's always been that debate. I remember when I first managed a radio station newsroom in the 80s, I went to an NAB conference and I actually saw Fred Friendly, one of the powerhouse behind Edward R. Murrow back in the days. And the debate was telling people the news they need to know versus the news they want to know. But the truth is, we see the same thing in our reporting at EMP, that the newsrooms that seem to be getting the most growth do look at their metrics. Some look at them on a daily, but it doesn't mean you don't do enterprise reporting. It means you gotta wake up and see the audience. Am I right? What are they engaging with, and what do they want? Is that what you're really seeing here?
Yes, and that's the relevance and utility piece. It's so important to be serving audiences as a craft, not just journalism as an art. Art can sit on the wall and no one can look at it, but a craft has to be used in a way that's productive and helps those communities. So
George, you just saved me a lot of work. You gave me my pull quote. Thank you very much. You're going to see that all over the place. I got to move on. You describe direct relationships as a structural advantage. Now, we're big into that here in EMP. You actually sponsor one of our most popular and most engaging products. And you nailed that when we first met. You said, we want to be part of that newsletter that is 30,000 plus subscribers, open rates that are just tremendous. And you describe that in this report, how this is becoming more valuable than the traffic itself, these direct relationship channels. Am I saying that right, sir?
most definitely. And, it will come as no surprise to say that newsletters have been a very effective tool and continue to be. But I think it's deeper than that, in the sense that what newsletters have represented in terms of their resilience as a mechanism for engaging audiences is a direct to consumer distribution vehicle, where there's a certain level of personalization and a mitigation of the risk of disintermediation, by which I mean people are being much more selective in terms of their news sources. And obviously the threat of disintermediation by social and now artificial intelligence in terms of the LLMs means that it's going to be even more crucial to have a direct conversation with your audience and communities. That doesn't have to just be newsletters. We've seen WhatsApp groups being a very effective way. We see it in comment sections, SMS, and sometimes in physical and virtual events, ways of that interactivity and personalization and scalability that these direct distribution mechanisms allow. And there was a recent FT article talking about how across many regions around the world, consumers are spending now less time on the internet and on social media. And there was a peak last year in 2025. The one region that was the obvious exception was the US, but yes. I expect at some point that the US will start to see that. We see the growing kind of touch grass movement. And I believe that with people coming off social media and being more selective with their news sources, then those direct relationships and mechanisms become even more important. I hear less people turning off their emails or their messaging applications as well. So I think they continue to be resilient as ways to meet the audience where they are.
Let's get to the top line. And I love what you say, which we hear a lot on this program. When revenue balance, the report is darn clear. Philanthropy alone is not enough. I mean, we've heard quotes on this show, no margin, no mission. We've had Stuart Bainham, the founder of the Baltimore Banner. I'm using a quote here, we have a nonprofit soul with a for-profit mind. And you really do say, don't rely on philanthropy. You must have multiple revenue streams. Am I correct, sir?
That's definitely correct. I think, as I said from the outset, we are a mission-centric organization here to support journalism as a specialist media consultancy. But I think one thing that consultants and journalists have in common, and is our duty, is to speak truth to power, to often deliver difficult messages to a broader audience, and also hold ourselves to account. And I think I'm a huge supporter of the philanthropic effort within media and the funders who put their money into the sector. But I think it's crucial that focus should be on sustainability, because without it, there will be no sector. And there cannot be a continued dependence on philanthropic funding and the whim of individuals or groups for the survival of the industry. So we need to use philanthropic funding much more as a catalyst for growth and to support the diversification of other revenue streams. And we've seen in our research across many hundreds of publishers that sustainable organizations typically maintain 3 to 4 meaningful revenue streams, which means, philanthropy most certainly can be one of those, but it needs to be sustaining the others in terms of reinvestment in capabilities and monetization opportunities.
We're limited for time, but we got to touch on the driver that everyone's buzzing about. I think I'm quoting you to you. Intelligent innovation, that's the driver for AI? I mean, take me back, treat me like I'm a 3-year-old. What separates newsrooms using AI responsibly from those that are chasing it like a shiny toy? What did you see within this data, sir?
It is interesting. I think that we've seen an interesting trend in smaller local news organizations, under 5, under 10 people at times, really using AI very effectively to scale. And I think one of the underlying drivers of that is their size itself, and the fact that they are constrained in resources and have to focus and allocate those resources in a very deliberate way. And then the AI underpins and leverages those key focus areas. And we saw in our survey that the more sustainable news organizations are the ones that really underpin all their work with really strong data to inform, product. Over 2/3 talked to that. Audience, over nearly 60% talked about data underpinning their understanding of audience, and editorial decisions, over 50%. And with that strong data infrastructure, that allows them to place artificial intelligence and automation capabilities on top to give them insights, but also scale and efficiencies.
There you go.
We're seeing a shift from use cases around efficiency to more utility in AI use cases, specifically tools for making employees work more effective and insightful, but also for audiences to interact and engage with. And I think that's going to be a key trend from the kind of news as search to news as ask and query.
There's another pull quote. Thank you. Okay, we got to bring this thing home because we limit these shows to 20 minutes. Again, the report is available. You can download it, digest it. We did, and it's full of stuff. But I want to now use your brain as an FT strategist, if I can label you that, because not only is this one report, you're looking at many. You guys are consulting some of the top media groups on this planet. Question one, I got two for you. If I were a local publisher watching right now that is massively overwhelmed, what's the first place you tell me to focus to find that sustainability and that growth right now, sir?
Yes, well, I mean, the most simple always, but I'm always shocked by how the largest news organizations, right down to the smallest, often ignore is talking to your audience, talking to your community. So not just your existing audience, but your target audiences as well. And really understanding what it is they value about your products and services, but also what are they being underserved? Where are there opportunities to give them more value? And also looking for opportunities to build that top of funnel, that first party data, which helps you consistently know who your audience is, what they value, and better meet their needs and find opportunities to efficiently monetize that data and that value exchange.
Okay, finally, if we're sitting here now 3 years out from this moment, what, in your opinion, would success look like, not just for individual newsrooms, but for the entire local news ecosystem as a whole? I know that's a loaded question, but you're the brainiac on this show, and I want you to tell me, we're 3 years out, what does success look like in your opinion?
Well, I think there isn't one size fits all. That's one of the reasons we produce this research, to show that there are different routes to success. And we included a number of different archetypes, which I really encourage news organizations to look at and align to and think about how they apply their strengths to it. But I do think there are certain patterns across different local news organizations that are successful that I would recommend to all for the long-term sustainability of the sector. One is creating real mission alignment, so long-term strategic planning around the kind of news organization that you want to be, particularly understanding who your audience are and aligning to it, then being really laser focused on the commerciality. So what are your opportunities to drive revenue? And third, having operational discipline. So designing operating models that are lean, efficient, and build upon your key areas of strength. We saw that 60% of growth organizations are in fact increasing their costs to invest in those areas. An example being Salt Lake Tribune and Village Media, and they really demonstrate how mission clarity, data-informed decision-making, and shared infrastructure enable even the smallest teams to deliver outsized civic and financial impact across the spectrum of business model archetypes.
The report is called the Local News Playbook, Creating Value for a Sustainable Future. It is produced by FT Strategies in partnership with Knight Foundation, and the guest unpacking it today is George Adelman, Director and Head of Partnerships at FT Strategies. George, we're going to have you back now. I mean, because these reports are coming out in profusion. And we're honored that you're amplifying them again through our channels as well. But you're providing these for free to the industry. And I urge our audience, just take a glance at this thing, because it's packed full of real world, down on the street examples to find that sustainable model. George, thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Lovely to be here.